Being that this is a frame extending / shortening video, I know everybody has an opinion on the right way, and so I am interested to see how and what I did wrong on this, because I know somebody out there has something to say about it. Alright, so hopefully you can see I've got a cut line. I'm going to cut down, cut over, cut down, and then over here I'm going to cut up, over, up. Direction doesn't necessarily matter, but I'm taking 12.5 inches out of this frame, and so from here to here is 12.5 inches, and my offset is 4 inches. There's no science behind that, it's just the number I picked. So from here over is 4 inches. That's where I made my first mark to start the bottom section. So from this line that you can barely see to this line is 12.5 inches. So I've already marked the other side. Now what I'm going to do, since this frame is already boxed, you can see I've got a mark here and then a mark here, which is the overall length, you know, the overall cut. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and cut this section out, and then cut the Z out of the frame, and then I'll shorten this piece and weld it back in. I will also be doing fish plates, but I thought this was probably going to be the best way to cut it and not have to 100% duplicate the cut on the other side to here. I think this will be easier, and I think it might even be stronger because the welds are going to be in a different location. It's not going to be the exact same welds on both sides, so that's the reason I'm doing this. I haven't found any videos showing this particular portion, so I don't know if it's right or wrong, but it's the way I'm going to do it. So I think I'll do a time lapse as I do the cutting. I am going to use a plasma cutter to get this section out. Then I'm going to switch over to just a angle grinder. That's where I'm at. And also what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut the bottom, each bottom first, and then I'm going to clamp a piece of angle iron on here so that once I get all the way through the cuts, it's not going to drop, and then I'll just be able to roll, the front and the back together, and then get some measurements and start welding. So here you can see I've got the boxed side cut out on both sides, and then you can see I've got some supports here. This is roughly where I'm going to put these. I'm going to cut them down where they're a little shorter, and then the offcut I will put underneath so that once this cutout section is free, I'll just be able to slide the frame together and clamp it, but I'll show you that here in just a minute. Well, this was exciting. We have the section cut out of both sides, and now I'm going to go ahead and dress up the cut ends and try to get them beveled for welding, and then I will draw these two ends together and get some measurements, make sure we're good and square, and then we'll move on. Alright, so here we've got it kind of cinched together, and I can already tell right here on the top, I think we're going to have to take some material out here, and then that'll drop there. That'll make that line up a little bit better. So not a big deal. We'll get that squared away. I haven't measured. These are the 2 points that I got this 16 1/8. So this technically should be 16 1/8 minus 12 1/2, and that should give us the measurement, you know, whatever the difference is. That's what this should measure. And so I'll show you the other side. We're kind of dealing with the same thing over there, and I think we're going to have some adjustments, but because I cut out the C channel, or the, you know, the boxed part, I can put a piece of material behind and you know, make sure it's good and solid. You can see the gap there. So we are going to also need to take some material off. So you can see we're high here, and then this doesn't fit perfect, but we'll get that squared away. We'll get this measurement right, and before we do any welds, even when this measurement is correct, we'll do some squaring just to make sure that we're good all the way around. As you can see, I have a little bit of a mess. I will show you how I'm squaring this before I go into full weld. You can see here I tacked a little bit on the back side just to hold this so I can move the clamps from here to the other side. But what I have here is just a button head bolt, and this actually, the tape measure actually grips it pretty good like that. So I feel like I'm getting a pretty consistent measurement each time I check, and it'll rotate on that head. And then I'm not perfect, but here I'm measuring to the front of this opening right here. And again, it's not a perfect measurement, but let's see if I can show you this measurement. So I'm right at 141 1/2. So I'm going to switch sides. And you can see once I get hooked, it rotates on that head. So doing this by myself makes it a little easier. So here we go. We're going to check this measurement. Get a focus here. So here we are at 141 7/16. So I'm going to go ahead and call that good. We are putting a 4-link on this, so we can adjust for slight out of square, but I think I'm just going to go ahead and get it welded up, and we'll come back after I've got it welded. Now I don't have the fish plates today, but once these are welded, I will put a fish plate on the outside, and then I think I've already mentioned I'm going to take from this where I cut out of the boxed side, the inside of the frame, I'm going to cut that down and fill in these openings. So we'll go ahead and get these welded up and go from there. Alright, well, I have the frame rail welded up. It's getting late, so I'm gonna shut the video down here. I am not a perfect welder by any means, but I'll just show you where I'm at. And obviously there's a few sections, and that was due to welding, let it cool, move to the other side, weld, let it cool. So tomorrow I'm going to close in the rails with the factory box. Here is the final results after grinding. Of course, they turned out perfect after the first grind. That's a joke. So I actually went back through and did some welding to kind of fill in some pinholes or porosity, however you want to look at it. But anyway, this is how it turned out. Obviously, if you look at that one, I still need to do the backside and get those back in. And I did order some fish plates, and if you've been looking at videos on how to extend or shorten the frame, you have become familiar with what a fish plate is. It's just basically a mending plate that goes on here and spans across the welds. So as you can probably tell, we're using basically a nail magnet. I'm not going to use this. I don't have a welding magnet, so we're going to use this just so I can get a couple tacks here in here, get this off here, and then we'll be able to weld up everything. We'll switch over to the other side, get that on there, but this is how this is going. Here we are the next day. I've got these fish plates in. You can see I got these from Send Cut Send. You can upload your own file and have these. These are probably plasma cut, but they do water jetting and plasma cutting and all kinds of other things. So I designed these plates to go over the welded space here. So I'll open it and kind of show you where I'm hoping to put them. And I had these holes put in as areas to basically do plug welds, and I didn't mock it up. I just kind of went off a thought that I had. So we'll see how they fit, and I'll do a little more cleanup, but I've got to spray some Weld Thru primer on both the frame and the back side of these. So let me get these opened up. I'll set it up here and see what it looks like. I have trimmed these pieces, you can see here, and that's just going to allow us some clearance on this back piece here. I did clean this with acetone, and then I wiped off my mark, and I thought I'd be smart and put that mark back so I could line up the centers of these holes, but I'm putting primer on, so I'm going to have to remake that line. But I'm just going to go ahead and coat it. It says 2 white coats of the Weld Thru primer. So again, get this side, then I'll go to the other side, and then I'll come back, and then we'll get welding. So if you're wondering about this primer, I'll try to find a link and put it in the description below. So I told you I was going to show you the good, the bad, and the ugly. So here's probably the bad and the ugly. But I am going to take a wire wheel to it and see what we look like after that. And I will at least grind the face of the plate that I put on and see what that looks like when we're done. Like I said in the beginning, I am no expert. This is the first big project I've taken on like this. And I am open to suggestions in the comments, and if you have any tips or pointers for me, I'd be glad to hear them. appreciate you watching, and hopefully you continue to watch the progress on this 65 Ford Ranchero.